Hey there, this is Ivan from ScaleFT. We are coming to you live from sunny yet incredibly windy Las Vegas. Some folks are here for AWS reInvent, some folks are here for Gartner IAM Summit, and others are here to spend all of their money at the craps table. As luck would have it, I am here for all three. And I'm here with ScaleFT Co-Founder and CTO Paul Querna, and we're just going to have a little chat about what we just saw. We just witnessed the Andy Jassi's keynote at reInvent, and some interesting announcements, and we just wanted to catch up with you on what you're seeing in terms of industry trends. A lot of talk about serverless. It's not the first time that they've come out and talked about serverless, but now it's really about changing developer empowerment to basically say, remove all barriers to deploying and shipping applications. But what are the implications of a pure serverless computing world?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying there is it's easier for developers to make more things. And you see them specializing these things. So the IoT stack that they're building, right? That is highly specialized. It integrates with all the other serverless plays they're doing. A lot of the machine learning stuff, the same thing. It's highly specialized. It helps you make it easier to use more Amazon stuff. And so, it's clear they do this in certain verticals. Even video games, they have their own video game platform. So doing that in different verticals makes a lot of sense for them. I think the open question is, what vertical is too far? In 10 years, is Amazon specialized services for everything in the world? I mean, that seems a little far-fetched. So, and it's also just like keeping focus of it. I think you saw a lot of people, Matisse was tweeting, about how it's like impossible to follow what's going on. There's 5,000 product announcements. Right. And so that kind of overload is happening in the ecosystem. But at the same time, if you have an IoT need, and it's a good solution. It solves a lot of real world problems. So it's customer driven in some ways, that these customers have these problems. I think they have a lot of focuses and messaging issues over time, but so does any large company that's successful.
Sure. Yeah, and AWS traditionally is more about providing raw primitives and then letting you figure out from there, but they're starting to add some abstraction layers, especially around verticals like IoT. Do you see them doing that with any other verticals, or too soon to tell?
Well, I think if you look at historically databases, I think is a great example of, they said, look, everyone needs a database, but we can specialize in those.
Right.
And they had RDS for a very long time. Same thing, S3 is its own kind of database. It's a data store. So data-centric stuff has already went through this transformation. IoT, similarly, you have a transport issue, you have device issues, and they're building specializations around that. I don't know what else they're going to go after. I mean, they're out doing video game stuff, but that's its own world. Nothing comes to mind, honestly, for we're going to take over, I don't know, online shopping or something.
Well, speaking of IoT, one of the interesting challenges, especially from a security perspective, is device identity. Mm-hmm. Do you have any ideas for ways that we can solve some of the identity problems, knowing the fact that the hardware manufacturers are not really that incentivized to build in security into the actual devices?
So it's a really hard problem, actually. Their incentives are, I want to ship something and get it out of my factory as fast as possible. But they're creating a legacy that lasts for potentially decades, especially in different types of IoT devices that go inside buildings. It's really hard. I think what you're starting to see is Cloudflare did some announcements this summer, similar to some of the Amazon products, where they're working with these manufacturers to help them do certificate management, to help them build in security from day zero. I think those ideas are really powerful and will generally be adopted across a lot of the IoT industry, but you also have to remember, people are making these devices and they want them to cost $1, or whatever. So the pricing pressure is going to be pretty intense to keep them simple and cheap and all those things. I think there's a middle ground. I think it might take government regulation at some point that says, hey, if you make something, you have to, in the food world, there's like Best Buy dates. You should have a expiration date on all your IoT devices.
Right. Artisanal IoT devices.
Well, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, look, your light bulb, maybe it comes with a 20-year software update guarantee. Right. I think that's still hard for a lot of companies to support that. It's a warranty that is a very long time. And the other real problem is, what we think of as the threat model of what you're protecting against, it's evolving really quickly. Right? There's been breaks in, if there's a break in RSA, for example, or other crypto algorithms, you might have built a chip that can only do RSA 2048. and you need to switch to elliptic curve for security reasons. You can't do that.
Right.
You know, if you have a physical device that's out there in the real world. So even if you had a 20-year supportability guarantee, the device may physically not be able to go to a new secure thing. And so those kind of things, like, well, what do? Do you have a recall? How do you fund that recall? You sold the device 18 years ago.
Right.
So
no one's going to notice a recall on their light bulbs.
Well, it all depends on how bad it is.
Unless they're a Philips customer. Philips Hue is pretty good at this, but
yeah.
you know, yeah.
No, and Philips Hue is good. I mean, they're shipping software updates all the time.
Yeah.
I think they're one example of someone doing it at least moderately well. They've had some security issues, but you know, they're definitely good about pushing updates. And I think what that really says is you need to be not just a physical device manufacturer. You need to be a software company that operates like a SaaS, or you ship updates every day, or you know, quickly.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. That is a tough problem to solve for. But I think you're right. And usually, you know, you might be scared of some government regulations, but in this case, I think that might be one step forward in the right direction. Speaking of identity, so this is also the Gartner Identity and Access Management Summit. Now, there's always been kind of two categories when we talk about identity services. There's kind of IAM and then PAM.
Yeah.
You know, do you see any reason for those to be separate categories anymore, or what? How can those kind of converge? What is the catalyst for that to happen?
Well, I think it's the requirements are converging, actually, right? Like if you're looking at from a CSO policy perspective, you basically have the same policy for a knowledge worker as you do for a root sysadmin, right? Like they're accessing restricted information, and therefore my policy about how they access it is the same, or what I want to audit is the same, what I want to put controls around are the same. And so traditionally, we thought we needed very specialized PAM things and separate things that are very like organization-wide. I think the policy side is driving to say, well, we have the same policy in both categories. Technology-wise, you just need a tool that can be successful in both categories. Right. And I think that's starting to happen. I think those markets are merging overall. I think we're just in the beginning of it at a Gartner type event. But you know, there's a lot of companies out there that are saying they're doing both. Right,
makes sense. Also, if you can read my shirt, it says, recycle your VPN, AWS reInvent 2017. Now, I talked to a lot of people yesterday and today. The common just pain point that they have, logging in through a VPN.
Yeah.
You know, what is the real pain point behind that, and what would a company gain by eliminating VPNs from their environments for employees and contractors accessing systems?
I mean, part of it is the lifestyle of your employees. Part of it is having a workforce that isn't the traditional, not just the lifestyle of the workforce, but like you have contractors. You have someone who is contracted to a third party. They're not necessarily working in your office in a 9-to-5 desktop environment that you designed your network security around 20 years ago. And the problem with the VPN is it's really a portal into your desktop worldview. You know what I mean? It's a way to say, treat something that's not here as if it is here. And that has a lot of implications. And when you have a workforce that is more distributed, not necessarily ran by your IT department, their devices, it's really hard to actually adhere to the policy that your company has. Your CISO has the correct policies written. The actual adherence to that is the gap. And VPNs aren't a successful tool in closing that gap. You know, they actually create more adherence gaps overall. Because everyone wants to, everything from simple things like I want to look at the cafe menu for my unmanaged phone. Do I have to be in the VPN for that? Well, if I'm on the VPN, I have access to all kinds of stuff from my unmanaged phone. To highly sensitive apps that are on the same flat VPN access as your cafe menu.
Right.
And so that dichotomy of like carte blanche VPN access doesn't create good adherence, doesn't match how your workers work, and users don't like it. You know, so for all those reasons, I just think the VPNs are going away. It's gonna be a long time before you delete all VPN software.
Sure.
But like I think if you can get 90% of your job done with never VPNing, people are happier about that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's going to happen pretty quick. I think you'll see a flip on the easy apps to port pretty quickly.
Right. So yeah, where do you start? So you don't rip out your VPN on day one. What's something someone can do today to get down the right path to that outcome?
It starts small.
Yeah.
Get a group of users who are highly passionate, which I think is funny. It overlaps a lot with your PAM users. They're the ones who already don't like the VPN. They're also the ones that are geeky, that will help you figure out stuff.
Right.
And so I think of it as, take a PAM app or a set of PAM users and take their one of the most used apps and figure out a plan for how they can access it without the VPN. And just start there. And you'll discover things along the way. You'll discover how your old network rules are set up. You'll discover how you have identity challenges, a lot of identity governance challenges, how you need to figure out device management policies, not just policy, but implementation. Those all are kind of things that are work along the way. Once you do your first app, the apps themselves are actually pretty fast to move. You just got to figure out a lot of those big building blocks.
Right. And you discover a lot along the way.
You discover along the way, which is why I would never tell someone, yeah, we're going to do a rollout to 100,000 employees in a month. Because you're going to run into, like, wait a minute, we haven't maintained our group memberships correctly for a decade. Yeah. Well, okay, let's work on that. Let's figure out what you actually want your policies mapping into your identity databases, basically. How does that actually work? Right. Let's go back and fix that problem. So Beyond Corp, and Zero Trust is not necessarily like an instantaneous turnover. But then there are small ways you can get started quickly. Sure. But at some point you're addressing like core issues of IT and security. And you're trying to fix a lot of legacy of it.
Right, these are things that you should be addressing anyway. And so you're uncovering maybe some poor posture on various areas of device posture of your employees. Yeah, group membership. You might have some keys laying around that you don't know about. Old employees that contractors been fired. You should be doing that anyway. So
But getting the Beyond Corp Zero Trust plan out there and doing that first app, it actually helps you address those things. Yeah, it helps you prioritize them. It helps you understand which ones are important to fix now or fix later. Otherwise, you're just kind of left with a massive backlog. From a software development point of view, you have there's always a backlog, 1,000 items you could be working on. Picking like, hey, we're going to move this one internal logging application over for our sysadmins lets you prioritize. Right. Which I think is the hardest thing for a lot of businesses is how can I have the biggest security impact today, the biggest user experience impact today, and then incrementally make it better over time? What's the architecture to get there? And that's what I believe in. Is that this is the correct architecture. Right. We're going to address issues as we go along and make the world better. This helps you prioritize what issues to address, right? Like, yes, we all have a legacy mainframe that has issues, right? But maybe it's not the most important thing to address right now. Yeah, I mean, you look at the way Google did it. They had to support all of their use cases, but not every company has to do the same path as Google. I think it's important to say, like, Google didn't support all the use cases in day zero either. Right. It took them many years. It took them many years. Yeah. I mean, that's a transformational story. Right. I think you look at some of the papers they've said, like, look, they got huge returns in the first year. Yeah. Right. And I think that for most companies, that's what you should focus on. What are the big returns that can get really fast? And then you still have a team executing on a longer plan. And they learned a lot along the way because you split traffic between the old system and the new system, and they were able to learn and adapt accordingly. That's an extreme, obviously, case. Porting over individual apps, you get the kind of similar kind of outcome of discovery. Yep. Yeah. Great. That makes a ton of sense. We started talking about serverless. How about we end with perimeterless? What does a perimeterless world mean to you? Well, if you look at go. Even some of Amazon's announcements this week, I think they call it the private link. Yeah. That's kind of a weird concept. You're like still embracing this like network-centric worldview, whereas I think a lot of what you consume as a developer now, I want to consume an API. Right. And this network thing is a weird legacy thing that's just been around. And like my compliance people care about it, but from a security outcomes point of view, it's kind of weird. So private link's interesting just because it kind of muddies that field a little bit. It definitely does provide some security benefits. Sure. But I'm not sure it really embraces. It doesn't help you with authentication or authorization or anything else that I think you still need to care about, right? Just because it's on a private IP doesn't mean it's actually really that much more secure. So the perimeterless world is, you move authentication, authorization, and you make sure everything's encrypted. You do that all at layer 7, where your app can actually make reasonable decisions. Right. Have more information. It's a rich information ecosystem. You compare that with a firewall making decisions or firewall rules in Amazon. You just can't make any smart decisions. Right. And so perimeterless is about being smarter at the end of the day, making better decisions. which I think is really valuable. Like that's how, if you have a point where you have more information, not only do you make better decisions, you have better audits of what did happen.
Right.
And so from a security standpoint, it's really hard to authenticate and authorize and do stuff at the IP layer. And so perimeterless is the combination of, okay, we'll move it up a couple layers, we get a lot richer information, and we focus on that information rather than network segmentation.
Right. Network was meant for transport, as it originally was. Let's make the smarter decisions at layer 7.
There you go.
But if you're making smarter decisions, when can we make intelligent decisions?
Intelligent decisions. Look, I think of that as an architectural thing. It's about information. You can't make intelligent decisions if you don't have quality information.
Yep.
You know, half of you talk about data science and machine learning a lot. All these new services are great, right? Like they help you use more machine learning tools, TensorFlow and stuff much quicker. But most people's problem, and you talk to data scientists about this, it's all about data munging, like getting the right information to make smart decisions.
Right.
Which is why I think perimeterless is really about an information advantage. You have more information, then you can make better decisions. But like to say I want better decisions is like saying I want machine learning to solve all my problems. Like first you gotta get better information into the machine learning, and then you can make better decisions.
Great. That's what it's all about. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Paul, for sitting down and chatting with me. If you want to learn more about all the great work that Paul and me I'm working on, visit us at ScaleFT.com or BeyondCorp.com. And thank you.